you know that with a kid, realistically, what they're capable of is pretty low. It goes up the older you get. But their belief in what they're capable of, the younger they are. I mean, they think they could, you ask my 7-year-old, he thinks he could crack the moon in half with a hammer. I mean, they believe that they could do anything, And so what we want to do is we want to help them take that belief in themselves, that potential, that exposure to all of these different areas, show them what people are doing, what they're doing, and so that as their skills go up and what they're doing in life, they still carry as much as possible of that belief that they can do these things,
You're listening to America's Healthiest City on Mike King Biz Radio Network on ESPN Richmond 106.1 and Choice 105.3. Welcome to America's Healthiest City. I am your host, Will Melton, and today we have Devon Copeland from Iron Village Preparatory Academy.
That's right.
And I think Iron Village Prep is probably
yes. Moving forward, yes.
And we're really excited to talk about the work that they're doing and the enrollment period that they've got open now for their programming. We're excited to talk to Devon, and we've got some other things that we'll talk about today. But before we get into the program, if you have not visited americashealthiestcity.com, please hop over to that website and learn about our 10-year community partnership to make Richmond the healthiest community in America by 2033. It does take a village, and we'll talk about that today. But please see how you could do your part by checking out the ideas, leaving your comments, adding your ideas to the ideas board, or consider becoming an ambassador if you represent a nonprofit, a business, an academic institution, or a government agency, and you want to see this happen. America's Healthiest City is about making the conditions so that people can live their most vibrant life. It's not all about individual health, but if we can make the conditions for everybody to live their most vibrant life, we can have just a lot of greatness, a lot more reasons for folks to move here, a lot of reasons for people to stay here, and just better quality of life all around. So, Devon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on board and taking the risk. I know this is all new to you. We're on ESPN Richmond 106.1. This airs on Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. So we've got some exciting things to talk about. The thing I start with everybody is this is about Richmond. So you are you native to Richmond, or did you move to Richmond at some point?
I moved to Richmond and I attended VCU so many years ago, 2000.
A couple years ago.
Just a couple, like 20 plus.
So school brought you here.
Yeah, school brought me here. I am a Hampton, Virginia native.
Okay.
And Richmond and VCU kind of hooked me with my journalism dreams.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about that because I know that working with young people isn't quite the same thing as journalism. But
right.
Tell me a little bit about your background and you came to Richmond for VCU. How did you kind of get into journalism in the first place, and where did you go from there?
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. I grew up wanting to be a writer. And when I came to, it was actually high school. We used to always come up here for a field trip called the high school league would have a journalism conference for high schoolers. And so we'd come year after year. I was on the high school newspaper. And, you get to live like a college student. You're going to classes and walking around, campus and hopping over to Pecola. And I just kind of fell in love with the city and decided this is where I want to major in journalism, major in mass communications. And so during my time at VCU, I was the editor of the Commonwealth Times, met my husband there at the college newspaper, so VCU, Richmond, just another layer to the love. And so when I left Richmond, I traveled and took different jobs, South Carolina, West Virginia, started out in newspapers as an education reporter. Education was not a passion for me. It was my first beat. I wanted to tell human stories. I wanted to connect with people. And so I was like, school story. I'm just going to be writing about school lunch and school board and finance. And what I found when I was early in my career was that when kids come into a school building, they are bringing so much with them. They are hungry in more ways than one. I wrote about homelessness. I wrote about foster children. I wrote about, achievement gaps and inequities. And it sparked a fire in me that kind of, I found myself asking, how long can I write about this until, before I'm like, I got to get in there. I got to do something. And so it was one of those things where I would always stop short and just say, well, who am I to do this? Education's not my background. I'm a writer. And so the way my career went, I just continued to do things education related. And once I was on that track, I moved into development and fundraising for schools. I moved into recruiting students. I moved into marketing these amazing programs that exist around the country. And so when I moved back to Richmond in 2017. And at this point, I've got 2 young boys. And, I saw that someone was starting a school. And it was, her background wasn't very different from mine. She wasn't a lifelong teacher that was like, now it's time for me to do this. This was just a mom that said, I want something different for my child. And I'm going to find a way to make that happen. And that was kind of what flipped the switch for me, where I was like, I've got that. And I'm not scared to call people, and I'm not scared to, step out of my comfort zone and find someone who's an expert. And so, during the pandemic, the wheels really got started, and that's where I find myself now.
So we'll get into that in a minute. I want to talk a little bit more about this notion of, who am I, to be pursuing this work. And I think this is something that comes up in a lot of conversations I have with folks, because it seems like it's a big task to kind of take on something that's either outside of your area of expertise,
right. Mm-hmm.
or to think that you are somebody who, you're like elected officials and people
right,
like that.
Right,
that
yeah, they do those things.
Yes, yeah. So what gave you the courage to step into this, knowing that it wasn't your field? What said, this is something that I need to go out on the ledge for?
My passion was bigger than my fear. I knew I'm going to hear no. I knew I was going to hear people that were going to say, that's a really wild idea. I knew I was going to come up against those things, but I knew if I didn't try, that was going to be worse for me than the no's and the setbacks.
So you and I met through Richmond Water.
Yes.
So this was the first time that I had heard about Iron Village Prep, and you told me what you're doing. I want to give you the opportunity to give our listeners the chance to kind of hear that story, and maybe just walk them through what about Richmond Water drew you in and caused you to make that phone call.
So at the heart of what we are doing with Iron Village Prep is we are building a community. Like you said at the beginning, it takes a village. And there are 2 adages that went into the name of Iron Village Preparatory Academy, and that's iron sharpens iron, and that it takes a village to raise a child. And so that iron sharpens iron part really, was really important to me, because, what kids need is they need to recognize that we got mom, we got dad. If you're, blessed and you're in a situation where you've got the support of your parents. But we did an exercise with the kids once where we had them trace their hand, and we had them write the names of the different people that are part of their village, so that they could just think of your hand, and you go, I've got my mom, I've got my dad, maybe I've got my pastor, maybe I've got, the local bank teller that, helps me put money in my bank account. So it was really about trying to build a community that is invested in the success and empowerment of children, and then, taking those children and helping mold them into adults who pay that forward, that one day they are, the adults in Richmond, maybe they're outside of Richmond and they come back to Richmond, but they are the adults that are then investing their time, their gifts, their resources into their community.
So let's talk a little bit about the programming and the audience.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I'm really excited about this conversation is, for America's Healthiest City, it takes all of us.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, I think that you're working to do is to build that representation of Black, Brown, and Indigenous
Absolutely.
into the curriculum, into the lesson planning. So can you talk a little bit about why that's important to you,
Yeah.
and how that weaves itself into your program?
Yeah. Well, so you can see there data point after data point that shows when children and students can connect with the person standing in front of them as their instructor, or the material and the curriculum and the lessons that they excel, that success takes on a different meaning for them. One of the things that we really want to show children, and Iron Village Prep is an environment for all, but what we're doing is very intentionally infusing our programming with this representation so that they can get that perspective and see that Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks are, icons. They are change makers. They are change agents. That they have not only helped, weave the fabric of our country, but they have, made it better. And so it's important for us to show that in, what's the field where they do fossils? Like Jurassic Park.
Archaeology.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's that. Like in archaeology, that there are, when the kids will be learning next week about, an archaeologist, a woman of color, a Black woman who that was her area, and what she did for fossils, and what she did, and showing those experiences so that they can see that they're part of the norm. If they're a child of color, if they're Black, Brown, Indigenous, that they can see that they are part of the norm, and that what's possible for them, and that it's been done. That they have people who have left their footprints for them to follow in and improve upon. It's exciting, And so we reached out to you all. We reached out to Richmond Water because we have these pillars of what we want to make sure that these kids leave our summer camp with, and ultimately as we expand our after school program and our private school, is that they leave armed with this toolbox that is just full of understanding about the things that our world needs. So they need to be financially well. They need to understand what sustainability is. They need to understand that we are responsible for this earth that we're on. And so one of our programs that we do every week for our summer camp in July is fun with food culture. And so for some of the weeks we're literally exploring culture and the connection with food. So week 1 we're exploring Filipino culture, and we're learning about food through Filipino culture through food. But I was following you all on Instagram, and I was doing research and going, I want to do something different. I want something sustainable. I want something that the kids can connect to, that they can feel empowered by. And I was like, it's local. There's art involved. There's so many components that I just loved and that are at the heart of what we're doing, that it just made sense to reach out to you all.
Well, it was an exciting ask for me, and I hadn't talked about Richmond Water on this program really at all. I mean, we've kind of dropped little product placements and stuff, but there is an overlap between Richmond Water and America's Healthiest City, because we can be better here as it pertains to our parks, our waterways, our physical well-being, because drinking water from plastic bottles is not good for us. But what we're going to do, and I think we talked about this, is set up an ideas board so that your young people can, both learn, how is something affected to make a change,
right? But
then also given the opportunity to be able to submit their own ideas to the ideas board, so that folks can read those and see the ideas of those young people. So we'll have to figure out how we do that technically with first graders, but I'm sure they'll be smart enough to we'll figure it out.
Well, so I was at a presentation probably a couple months ago, and I had this aha moment because the presenter was talking about potential and how there's a curve to where what we believe we're capable of versus what we're actually capable of. And so that with a kid, realistically what they're capable of is pretty low. It goes up the older you get, but their belief in what they're capable of, the younger they are. I mean, they think they could. You ask my 7-year-old, he thinks he could crack the moon in half with a hammer. I mean, they believe that they could do anything. And so what we want to do is we want to help them take that belief in themselves, that potential, that exposure to all of these different areas, show them what people are doing, what they're doing, and so that as their skills go up and what they're doing in life, they still carry as much as possible of that belief that they can do these things.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So, this is America's Healthiest City, by the way. If you haven't gone to americashealthiestcity.com, please check it out. We have Devon Copeland from Iron Village Prep. And you have an enrollment period that's open now and closing soon. So I want to give you a chance to plug that before we're not out of time yet, but I do want to make sure we get that in there. So tell us about what that looks like, kind of what's the structure of it, how long, and everything like that.
So right now we have our Enrich and Empower Summer Institute, and that is a summer camp that runs 3 weeks in July. So not this first week of July, this holiday week, but July the 10th, the week of July the 17th, and the week of July 24th. And this is a program for rising first through fifth graders. And it is, I'm biased, but I can say that it is one of the most affordable and unique options in the area for kids. It is 9 to 6. And that's an after-school component as well, after-program component. So actual programming is 9 to 3. And so for those parents who, are trying to figure out how to get their kids in activities, but their work schedule just doesn't allow for them to leave early, we've got that aftercare component as well. And we are, like I said earlier, we are infusing all of our activities with the representation, the achievements, the contributions of Black, Brown, Indigenous individuals and communities. And so camp kicks off. You can register for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, and we have discounts for multi-week registration. But it kicks off Monday, July 10th. Registration closes for week 1 this Friday. I'm not sure what this Friday is, maybe the 7th, July 7th. Mm-hmm. And you can go to ironvillageprep.org, I believe, ironvillageprep.org. And that's where you can sign up and you can learn more about the great activities and programs we got planned for the kids.
So this is new. You're getting started. This was a pandemic era invention or creation. Where are you going? Where are you going to take this? It sounds like something that people want to be a part of early. Yeah.
We are in year 3 or summer 3 of our summer camp, which has been a great testing lab for us. This has been kind of our try out some partnerships. People take a risk on us. We take a risk on them. And we've been really able to connect with some great individuals in urban farming, in language studies, in music. And just, I think, we've uncovered some gems, and I hope that they would say the same about partnering with us. But what we're planning to move into is fall of 24, we'd like to expand into an after-school program. And so right now we're operating the summer camp in North Chesterfield, but our goal is to have a presence in Chesterfield County, Richmond City proper, and Henrico County, where the student populations are, 25% or more students of color. And that's very important to us. So we're planning to expand into the after-school program, and from there we'll be expanding into an actual independent school.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about outcomes.
Yeah.
Long term, you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't think that you could have an impact. So what do you hope would be the outcome of taking this step? And maybe another question that I could get you to speak to is what sort of things would you hope to see change, in our community that moves us in a direction toward those goals that you have in mind?
So there are a couple of different, audiences or stakeholders that we really want to make sure that we have an impact on. So obviously, we want to impact the students and families by providing them, an education that is high quality, that where they see themselves reflected, and that is is in the same caliber of the schools that families are paying thousands and thousands of dollars, because we just believe that the skills and the experiences that kids should have shouldn't be dictated by how much you can afford to pay for it. So that's one pocket, is just high quality education that we can give these kids. We want to have an impact on this city. We want, if we end up with a building that we can only house 200 kids, we want to make sure that we have training programs in place so that maybe our literal footprint is that building, but we have a ripple effect throughout the community. So if you're an after-school program over here, we can share with you, we can train and give you some of what we're working with. If you're a school and you're a teacher, we can do that, so that it's not ever going to be just about 200 kids that are lucky enough to be in this space. It's going to have a ripple effect for our community. We want to empower educators. We want to create an environment where people who are called, and it is a calling, who are called to go into education feel supported, feel like they have a voice, feel like they have the power to we trust them and let them be experts. And so we really want to create an environment for teachers, for educators to grow, and whether they stay with us for the duration of their career or take that somewhere, that has a ripple effect. So we got a lot of goals, a lot of ideas.
Thank you for listening to America's Healthiest City on Mike King Biz Radio Network.
So we have Devon Copeland here from Iron Village Prep, and we are talking about the summer programming that they have, and the rich summer programming that they have, and the growth goals for down the road. I want to talk a little bit about the broader community, because that's what you're talking about now, the ripple effect that you guys can have outward. But this show is all about connecting folks. It's all about bringing people into this space, but also seeing how we can get the listeners of this show to help our folks out. So how can the broader community help you in achieving your goals?
We are always looking for partners who can help point us in the direction of space. Space is an issue. Right now we're renting space, and we've got access to that space for 3 weeks. But we would love to identify with some folks, some partners who want to get into community outreach, or they're in community outreach and they're looking for someone who's got the program and the curriculum that that they can expand into being an after school program resource. We're always looking for educators or education organization partners who want to work with us as a test lab for building that pipeline of teachers. We know in education we want more men. We need more men. I'll tell you right now, the bulk of our campers are young boys, and while we're all ready to love on them, all the teachers who are women and our helpers and our volunteers, you can't beat having the presence of a man in that room saying, I'm invested in your future, man. I want to help you grow. That's powerful. So we're open to partnerships.
Wow, that takes me back to an interview we had a couple weeks ago. The power of men in a young boy's life is it's a big thing.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we do with this program is to and we're going to help you connect with those resources, by the way. So we'll talk about this in our social channels and make sure that we push that out there. But one of the things we want to do is to try to give our guests the opportunity to inject something into this show, which takes the shape of either ideas that we can add to the ideas board that you want to inject, and I'll give you a pause so you can think about it. And then the other one, since you guys meet so many people that are contributing to what you're doing, we always are looking for other guests to the show.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
If there's somebody that you think is worthy of, or not worthy, but really needs to have their story told and shared out there, that's another thing that we ask folks for. So if you've got somebody that you can recommend there, or you have any ideas you want to share, we'll welcome that now.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Some of our kind of day ones, are Pastor Marvin Gilliam with the Mount Carmel Baptist Church. And he's been the lead pastor of that church, I believe 32nd Street, for quite some time. And he, has sent his kids to our camp every summer because he believes in what we're doing, because he believes in the power of education, and because he has his eye on the community and how as a clergyman he can contribute to that, to bettering our community, bettering our city. We've other folks that we have been really lucky to work with are Natasha Crawford with Healing Hope Urban Gardens. She's leading our Unpicky Eaters Club this summer with the kids, exposing them to different produce and that's in harvest, and helping them kind of explore food and fresh food in that way. I could go on, and I'll let you know some other folks for sure.
Yeah, well, we only do one show a week, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's awesome, and we're going to get some of those people on this show. It is work to program this, and we love doing it, but we love the recommendations too. So I'm going to give a chance for folks to find out where they can find you online. But before I do that, I just want to give a quick shameless plug. Richmond Water is having its official launch party on July 27th. You are the first to hear it. Go to drinkrichmondwater.com/tickets to get your tickets. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff going on with that, but a lot going on in the month of July. So as far as Iron Village Prep goes, if you could just give us the dates one more time on enrollment and on when that programming starts and ends.
Yeah. So our Enrich and Empower Institute kicks off July 10th, and we're offering 3 one-week summer camps. The week of July 10th, the week of July 17th, and the week of July 24th for rising 1st through 5th graders in North Chesterfield. You can come from anywhere, but we're based in North Chesterfield this summer. So we've got parents who work over in our area. Maybe they live somewhere else, but they bring their kids. And it's for rising 1st through 5th graders. You go to ironvillageprep.org to get more information about our awesome programming and to sign kids up. That's the summer camp.
Do you have rolling registrations for that?
We do. So registration closes Friday for week 1, but registration is open. If you want to go the next week, you have until Friday of the preceding week to register your child.
Well, Devon Copeland, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a great conversation. I can't wait to come and meet the young folks and have an impact there.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't checked out americashealthiestcity.com, please do. We really need your help, and we need everybody. These young people are going to play a role in helping us do this as they spend time here in this community. They're going to be here for the next 10 years, so they're going to contribute, and you should too. So thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.